Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for the My Hero Academia film, My Hero Academia, World Heroes Mission. Of course, as the title says, there will be spoilers in the second half of this review. This is also a special 420 review, because I am currently high. Excuse me, just had some water, a little bit of dry throat. Great film. I really enjoyed it. Of course, I will let you guys know when we do end up getting to the spoiler segment, which will be most of this, honestly, because as far as non-spoilers, you should see it. It's really good. If you like My Hero, you will like the movies. Honestly, I think My Hero might be up there as far as their actual films, at least. I mean, the show itself is, of course, great. But their films are really good. Like, some films, some anime movies you can watch where it's like, okay, I kind of like this, I kind of like that. Granted, they're only 3 in, but each one is really good. I would say, honestly, this might be my second favorite, and I'd have to rewatch all 3 movies to decide. I saw the first one recently, so that's the one I have the most information on, mentally at least. But I feel like I like number 1 the most still because first off, it still involves a lot of the kids, even though like my least favorite thing was the whole, they get so stuck on the rules in that movie where they're like, we technically can't fight because we don't have our licenses yet. I'm like, everybody's dying. Like, it was weird. I was just like, I wish they weren't so strict on the rules sometimes, but that's how they do it in the show, so I was just like, I have to let that go. But I still like the first one probably the most. The story is still All Might and Deku, and it's kind of, basically the end of that relationship and how that plays out. And I think the second one, like, the movie's gonna make me feel how the characters feel. So like the first one's like, oh, it felt like a real classic. It really felt like 3 episodes of the anime. And then the second one was like, this definitely feels like the classic definitive version of a non-canon anime movie. Like, that movie was so non-canon that not just the ending, but I'm pretty sure they introduced Hawks in the second movie before he even showed up in the series, because that definitely came out before the season finale and stuff. And I'm like, just when I was watching the movie, I think I was only a few episodes behind, and I felt like I was like, dang, I must have missed something important, because even Endeavor, when he shows up, literally at the end of that movie, he said something to Todoroki that's like seemed like, oh, he's trying to change as a person. And I was like, I feel like I missed some stuff, and then I caught up, and I was like, all they did was a festival arc just now. Like, none of that stuff I thought was gonna happen happened, because like they introduced Hawks. Endeavor seemed like he was changing, and it was like, okay, if I saw the last 2 episodes, which definitely weren't out when the movie came out, I'd be like, sure. But they seemed like they did some weird stuff, and obviously the ending was literally like, they gave both of them one for all. It's like, the ending was like, it was beyond the screen. It was plus ultra. So you can't. It's definitely the best ending out of the 3 movies for sure. Because I don't know how you could ever top that, and I don't think this one does. But they definitely got close. Like, it went so hardcore at the end of this, and I was definitely like, I don't know what they can do, because the last movie ended so wildly. How do they do something that even compares to what happened at the end of the second film? And trust me, they do it. It might not beat it, but it was 100% like, you know what? If someone was like, if someone chose the ending of the third movie over the ending of the second, I'd be like, yeah, I can see why. I can totally, honestly, all 3 of the endings for all these movies is always perfection. Like, in their own little way, it's always perfect. And it's like, I could see why anyone would choose any of the 3 based on how they felt, either about the characters that were involved in them or just the powers that were used. I could totally understand it. Hard to beat the second one though, because they went full non-canon and were just like, fuck it, all for one Deku, all for one Bakugo, and it was just insane. Like, how can you beat that? But we'll get to that in the spoiler segment. But all in all, also, as you can see, we got my My Hero One's Justice 2 Collector's Edition. So here's Deku doing his shoot style. Yay, there we go with that. And then, of course, we have the super cool Steelbook Edition. Also, there is Overhaul and Shigaraki there, so you can see both sides. The movie's really fun. If you like My Hero, you should see the movie. It's a great addition to the series of films. They do some stuff that's definitely, much like the second film, they definitely do some stuff in here that's like, I'm pretty sure, based on how they constantly talk about Deku's powers, that he can't do what he just did in that film. But who cares? It was amazing. Also, secondary thing, and this is just, not everyone got to experience this, but I saw it in D-Box, which are moving seats. Probably the best D-Box experience I've ever had. Like, every single anime movie, at least action anime, should do D-Box, because anime gets buck wild, and it was definitely worth the extra money, because just the beginning of the movie, the chair shook so much. It was like, oh, this is going to be like a real experience. Like, a lot of movies, like, I've seen a couple at this point. I think before this one, I actually saw Venom. Definitely didn't really do it. Like, it was a little bit of shaking. I also found out that my chair, for some reason, like, went down from 3 to 2, so that may have played a part in it, like, the whole movie. And I just looked at the end credits, and I was super pissed. Like, I paid this extra money. It's a decent chunk extra for those moving seats. and then I was at level 2. So I made sure I was at level 3. And I legit, like, there was one specific moment that happened in the movie, and I think it was like during like the second big set piece scene, and I was just in like the wrong position. Fortunately I didn't lose the popcorn, but there was a specific shake, and I almost did. I was like, oh snap! Like it was that close, but it was really fun. It was really great, and just moving around, and it was absolutely insane. So that was super cool. Also, they gave us a book. Sadly, they didn't do this for the first 2 films, but if they do this going forward, that would be fantastic. It'd be really cool, and it's got spoilers in here, but I can show you some little details, like for their costumes. They have sketches and stuff that you can't see from this, because all of these costumes actually have hoods. Also, and this isn't really a spoiler, there's actually 2 things worth talking about. First off, they don't start the movie off with Deku saying this world is full of people with quirks, and like 80% of the population has them, and 20% don't. I used to be quirkless, and then I met this dude and all this garbage. They finally stopped doing that, at least in the movies. I know they still do it in the show, which still doesn't make sense. I mean, they did a lot of dumb stuff in the most recent season, like the whole first arc. They recapped. Every episode was legit, like, 2.5 minutes was recapping the last episode for that very first arc, which is super annoying, especially when you watch it in order. I actually watched, like, pretty much the whole season, actually. Yeah, I watched, like, the whole season, because that's how far behind I was. So I just watched, like, the entire season before seeing this movie, because, of course, I didn't want anything to surprise me, which, as you can imagine, there's some things that happen this season that definitely apply to this very specific film. So you should at least see the first arc. That's all you really need to see. And then technically this movie takes place during the second arc. There's even a filler episode that's like the lead in to the actual movie. So there's that, but you don't really need to see that. But it was cool. It was definitely, it was a fun season. And then the movie just kind of picks up like in this magical little space where they at least explain it. In the first and second movie, it was kind of just like, it was a classic anime movie where it's like somewhere in there. It was before this thing, but it was in there. It was during that part. Although I do think they went into it for maybe the first movie. I think they explained it. The second one was definitely just like, it was just like they went to summer camp. And that was kind of how the second movie felt. Like they were just sent off randomly out of nowhere. And then it's like, second movie was really weird. They showed a lot of stuff where I was like, I feel like I'm missing out on this season. And then nothing that was like stuff that was hinted at in that movie didn't happen until literally the last 2 episodes of the last season, and it was super weird. Like Hawks, I think, was in that movie, and he wasn't even in the show yet. It was weird. Like they definitely did some stuff that made me feel like I was missing things, and I wasn't, and so it felt weird. This movie doesn't feel that way. Like even if you haven't caught up, aside from a very specific thing that happens in the very first arc, so you can see it. Aside from that, it's like you know exactly where it's at. Everything's kind of simple. All the characters are kind of spread across different countries going on this cool mission. And it starts off in these very cool stealth mission costumes. Sadly, that's it. It's like the first 5-10 minutes of the film. And then these are gone. They're just in their regular outfits after that for the rest of the film. And let me tell you, these costumes were so sweet. I was very upset. I was definitely upset. Because I was like, I loved the poster art and stuff. It was just them. And it looks amazing. The costumes look sick. I was like, these are super cool. Actually, if you look here, you can see like even Bakugo's grenades. It's basically like kind of the inside gauntlet parts. Obviously painted jet black and everything. Excuse me. And I was just like, these are sweet. They're all super cool. They actually all have hoods as well. And I'll try to make sure I don't show any random spoilers. Although I think all this stuff is literally just showing their quirks and everything. Yeah, this is literally like the basic information of the characters. But right here, that's what his costume looks like. So instead of it being like the full mask that everybody hates, including the creator, which is why we never see it, he's got him here. He's got his, he's got his little weird, Donnie Darko ears. But other than that, this pole goes right up his butt. By the way, it's very odd positioning. Technically, it's like right in his leg, but it's basically at the crease. It's basically a crack pole. Come on, Dexter, don't be like this. Here we go. There we go. So, that's 420 reviews. That's what you get. So, the hoodies look super sweet. And so, I love what they did. And in all honesty, I was like, these should totally be their permanent costumes forever. But I loved what they did with the outfit where it's, instead of it being the full mask, you have, you still have the ears and the design on it, but it's just like, really bulky hoodies. And they look great. I thought it looked super cool. I was like, I love the design of it. Obviously, he's even got the stuff for his hands and everything. Everything's obviously is green. They're accent colors and then just black outside of that. But they look sick. They look absolutely amazing. And then even Bakugo has that, like where instead of it being his full mask, he has the spikes on the actual hoodie. And so, sorry, backwards on, on my thing. Hold up. Here we go. Man, I'm bad at this. There we go. I'm so bad at this. But yeah, he looks cool there, just to do it the right way. So there you guys go. So you can see, like, especially on the back of his head, like it's just really cool. Like, I love the way they handle that, where instead of it being like the actual full mask and everything, it's just the spikes. It's the spikes set into the hoodie. So you might see a lot of people cosplaying that because they look super cool. I've never, personally, I don't really like Bakugo's mask. Like, even in this, he actually has a mini mask compared to like his full thing. I wish that was his actual thing. I kind of hate the spikes personally. Like, that's why I like all the fights. For one, if his mask gets blown off, that means you're in a serious fight. But two, I prefer seeing his actual face. It's just like Deku. Deku and Bakugo have the same thing for me, except Bakugo actually wears his mask all the time. And I was like, dang, I kind of hate the hair spikes. I wish it was just the little mask. So I think that looks cooler. And honestly, Todoroki's isn't really worth showing off, but I'll do that just in case you guys want to see it. His isn't much. He got like some little like curve thingy. Sorry, I did it backwards again. There's not much to it. Like, they put some little rings and I was fine with it. I was like, his costume is actually pretty sick. It's very simple, but it's super cool in the anime. And then like, just throw some lines on the hood, I guess. And it worked. It was just like silver lines. And so it was fine. But all their costumes, I think, look cool, like being the jet black and then their accent colors. I thought it was fantastic. And of course, that being like the promo art, I was like, oh, okay. Even if they didn't do it a lot, I thought it would at least be like, okay, it's in the beginning. Maybe they switch costumes and then like, big final mission. We got to go like full badass stealth mode again. And we got to, get this crap done. And they didn't. I was definitely expecting it when I got to the end of the movie. I was like, oh, like it's sorry. I don't know. I looked at Deku like, sorry, dude. But I was like, it fits perfectly. Super cool costumes. Rest of the movie's kind of normal. And then you get to the end. It's like, we got to go back to the super cool movie costumes. And they don't. They're literally only in the beginning. And that really sucks because if they were trash, it wouldn't matter. I'd be like, thank goodness. But they look really good. Like, they honestly should have that for like every character in the whole series should have like a design costume exactly like this, where it's whatever their accent color is and kind of, change around what their actual, costume is. And no one else gets that. They only show, our trio here actually doing that. So it was unfortunate. That was like the one issue I had in the whole movie. I was just disappointed. Like, oh, that sucks. I was really looking forward to seeing those cool costumes, and they looked even cooler in motion. And then they were literally only in the beginning, and then it was classic costumes the entire rest of the film. So that's like one random spoiler, but not really. So just to kind of let you know how that ends up playing out, unfortunately. But other than that, I'll let you find out the rest of the movie, even though that was me just basically griping on like the one thing I had in my personal experiences in moving seats. Really good. Highly recommend it. The action is phenomenal. The story is really good. They do some stuff in here, which I'll get into in spoilers, that is very different from the first two movies that I actually thought made it more like a normal film that you would see. And I'll get to that, like I said, in spoilers. But all in all, see the movie. I don't know how you can see it. I don't know if it's streaming just yet. And it's definitely, I would assume, it just came out in theaters. I highly doubt it's already on Blu-ray. But if you can, pick it up. Like, I'm sure it'll be out. They might rush it, especially with the holidays coming up. They might rush it to make sure it comes out, in December. So I would say pick it up. If you like the other two movies, if you haven't even seen them and you just like the My Hero movies, make sure you have seen the most recent season, at least the first arc. But definitely pick it up for sure because it was really fun. But that's pretty much it for the non-spoiler segment. Probably get Deku back up here if he'll actually like stay on this thing. But getting into full-on spoilers. There we go. I love the ending. The ending was really good, minus them not going back to the super cool costumes. The ending was phenomenal. I was very curious how the F are they going to stop a one for all moment, like Deku and Bakugo both having one for all and doing this match, like both of them had like one arm that they could use, and like it's insane. Like, how do you top that? You just ignore all of the logic of the entire series. You're like, we already did it once. He's Spider-Man. He's swinging off the effing Golden Gate Bridge in like France, Italy, combo country. It doesn't matter anymore. Just do something sweet. Like, he's fighting a dude. Every time he punches him, his powers go back. Well, what if I just keep punching at him? Okay, well, it turns out that he does have a limit to his automatic, passive ability. Like, it has a limit. You have to go beyond that limit, plus ultra, if you will. And man, oh man, they were like, you know what? Remember how he basically would have disintegrated into nothingness if he used All for One at like 1,000,000% or whatever the F he did, because they just be throwing numbers out there to say it's better. But remember when he did the overhaul fight and it was just like, this is god tier anime right here. What if we did that? It was like, well, he needs Eri though. Like, remember I don't care. What if we did that? That had to have been the conversation. That seems to be what they do at the end of all these movies. Because, like, All Might shouldn't have been able to fight. Like, the whole movie, he should not have been strong All Might. He was like, I'll just have to hold in my form. The whole movie? Are you serious? Like, the whole point of the show is that he couldn't do that. But it was like, whatever. It's fun. Second movie, they're just like, here's a piece of my hair. Oh, once you guys did that super amazing badass moment, memory loss. It didn't completely transfer. What? That doesn't make any sense. But it was amazing. And then the ending of this movie, they were just like, you know what? What if he punched so fucking fast he just didn't even move? What if we pulled a old school Dragon Ball Z and was like, he's moving so fast it's like he's not even moving. We'll just have him do this, and then we'll just make it look like he's doing something cool by just copy and pasting an image and just stretching it out. It didn't even look cool. I was like, this visually doesn't even look cool, but the moment was so hype. I'm like, he's just doing this, and then they were just like, well, check this out. Copies. I was like, this doesn't even visually look good, but everything around it was so amazing. I didn't even care. I was like, I know this doesn't look right. Like, he's just standing. It wasn't, the animation wise, I was like, this just looks weird. But I felt the spirit. Like, he's moving so fast. He's like transitioning between realms and stuff. And it was so amazing. And it was just like, sure, I love it. 100%. That ending was phenomenal. Like, it was just like, I don't know if it tops 2. Because I think most people would be like, it's just hard to top that just for the sake of what that did. But man, they don't quit. The first one was amazing. I was like, this is phenomenal. The second movie came out. I was like, I didn't see that one coming. Third movie comes out. I didn't see that coming because I'm like, well, that would defy the whole logic that of using the power. But they're like, whatever. So I watched it and I loved it. The ending was so good. And it was like, he was already doing it. And I was like, okay, so he's going to just do like a cool epic final punch. But they were like, yeah, he's going to do that. But don't worry. We'll make sure it's like, it's ridiculous. Because I was like, okay, it's already cool. He was already like constantly getting blown back into the walls in the books. And I'm like, he was just, and I kind of like the fact that it seemingly was going to just be the classic anime, will of fighting, and like he was just going to do it with like actual normal punches. I was actually okay with that because I was like, that's actually super badass to do that, where it's just him. Like technically he's still using All For One, but he's not going plus ultra, if you will. But it was still really cool. Like he's just doing what he can because that's all it means to be a hero. Like he's just fighting. It wasn't even at that point. It was literally just the will of the character was the super cool moment. And then they're like, don't worry, we're gonna keep adding. It was kind of like watching Endeavor. It was like, oh, he keeps going, and then he keeps going, and it just keeps getting crazier. And he's just like, have it. He just goes all out. The lightning kicks in. He's flipping and flying. The animation was just like, let's go wild. And they do that a couple of times. Like when Todoroki showed up and they were on the cliff, watching that whole sequence, I was like, they put so little detail into the actual characters, but it's just like, it was almost kind of hard to follow. And I'm just shaking in my seat like, they are flipping and spinning, and I'm like, I don't really know what's happening, but I know I like what I'm seeing that's confusing me. And I loved it. Same with Deku. Like, there was some part where he was flipping and he literally was like spinning in midair, but because it was focused on him, the world was technically spinning, and that's how they kept doing it. Like, they would focus on the people and how, like, if Todoroki was like going in a spiral under the ice, it would stay on him and it looked like the whole world was spinning around, and it just made it super confusing to watch. But it was also kind of super cool, so I didn't really care enough. And it doesn't last long enough to distract you, at least for me personally. But I could see some people being like, they have, they're just those couple of moments where I could see, if you got like issues on roller coasters, especially being in the moving seats, I could see that effing somebody up. Even though it was really short, I could see somebody being like, oh snap, and then they're over and they have to be like, hit that button and turn the moving down. But it was really cool. I liked all the chase sequences that they had, but the ending, they definitely did it. And of course, I wish Todoroki had a better thing. I'll definitely say that. I would love to know your thoughts on that for sure. But Todoroki definitely, like, it was sweet that he did the here he does his flash fire fist, and I love that for sure. But I was like, oh, his wasn't as epic. Like, Bakugo was fighting, and especially I saw a dub, so, and I actually personally I like the dub voices. I'll just watch whatever I can get my hands on. But when he thought he like took him out, I was like, okay, that was a cool fight, but I was like, that wasn't like insane. But I was kind of at that point, I was like, okay, Deku still got to do his thing. But then it was like, no, they took the trigger, and then it was like, oh, the second phase is kicking in, and I was like, okay, we're gonna see some epic stuff. And then he was like, oh, you want to get crazy? Well, I'm right there with you. And I was like, those are like the small moments that make me like Bakugo. Otherwise, dude's kind of an asshole, but he's changing. I might start liking this dude a lot more. But his fight was epic. They went, all out. It was referenced to me that he basically went full Fire Lord. And I was like, yeah, I can see that. I definitely see that. And like his shirt was blown off and everything. And he was just, he had to go all out. Had to go beyond plus ultra. And he did his like ultimate move, which I was kind of waiting for. Because I was like, doesn't he have like a final move that we haven't seen in like a really long time? And then he, like, right when I was thinking, I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. He has like this final move, and he did it, and it was sick. And I was like, that's super awesome. Todoroki, I didn't feel like had as much visually. It was beautiful. Like, I love the fact that when he froze it, it froze because like the creature was kind of like a blob sort of situation, and it froze it froze like in a honeycomb. I thought that looked super cool. Like, and they're like on a waterfall and it freezes the waterfall. I was like, that's actually insanely sick. Like, it looked cool, but it felt so much shorter than what Todoroki got, or than what Bakugo got, because it was like Bakugo got like the longest. I think his fight was technically longer than Deku's. Excuse me. He started the fight with them, and it's like, okay, you guys keep going, and then they went through, and then Todoroki's like, you keep going, Deku, and I'll deal with this. And then he was in the water for what felt like 100 years. I'm like, this dude can really hold his breath, because he was just stuck until he saw the water, still saw the light coming up. And I wish his just got to be longer, because I really like watching him fight, because of course the fire and ice, not just for the powers, just the visuals. It's really cool to watch him have both things. So I wish we got to see that more, because he does some cool moves, and then once he's underwater, I felt like the fight was really short between them, and then they were just in the water for a super long time, seemingly, because then they would cut to Deku and then cut back, and it's like he's trying, and then they cut back to Deku, and I'm like, Todoroki didn't get much as far as like his truly epic moment, and it was like, I wish he got a little bit more, being, with it being those three, the big three as far as the series is concerned. Well, I guess it would be the big three as far as the fans are concerned. Technically, the series would be concerned with a different big three. But, Bakugo, Todoroki, then of course number one, Deku. Those are the big three for, the actual anime. And it was like, I was looking forward to more of them actually having... I wish they were kind of unified more just throughout the film in general. Like, I wish they kind of showed up earlier. Because I feel like once they had that one fight scene, then it was kind of a lot of the planning, and then they went to the final fight. I wanted to see a lot more of them fighting as a unit, personally, because that's kind of a big thing with the show, and I actually enjoy that. That's one of my favorite things about My Hero, is that they really focus on, like, these are people with insane superpowers, but they're always pulling off like some, outside of Deku, because he's the main character. The main character has to do like something by themselves. But even then, story wise, it'll always be something crazy happening where someone else allowed for him to get to that moment. Like, they do a lot of teamwork. And that was like the one thing where I was like, I do kind of wish we saw that a little bit more. Like, they were a team for a giant chunk at the end, but I wanted to see more of it action wise. And even when they got to the end, it was basically like they got their cool set piece fights. There it is. And I just wish we got to see a little bit more teamwork from them, where they all actually get to fight together. But like I said, Bakugo's was still absolutely amazing. Obviously, Deku's had to be like the coolest thing ever. And Todoroki I felt like he got the short end of the stick, because it was so small for him compared to what we got to see for Bakugo, who had like a year-long fight. And then Deku, who had to go, he had to go basically Super Saiyan on him, and like really pull everything out of his hat. So that was like the one thing I was like, Todoroki should have had at least a little bit more, like a longer fight. I felt he was just wrapped up underwater for way too long. It was weird, but still love the ending. I love the chase sequence with the Arrow woman, and I wish she was in it more. I was hoping that she would still be there at the end as like one of the final villains, but man, she at least did a really great job in the story, where it was like, this is how crazy they are. This is a woman who hates having powers, and she failed once. And the second time she failed, not only did she kill the one dude, because he was just like, I'll tell you whatever you want. And she was like, traitor, boom, he's literally just dead right there. And she was like, I failed again. And she just jumped out of a helicopter and just killed herself. And I was like, this movie is really wild. It's also way more mature. That was something I forgot to mention in the non-spoiler segment. They get ripped up. Like, Bakugo should be dead. I'm pretty sure there's one point where Deku, like when Deku got hit by a couple of lasers, he should have been dead. But I was like, there's way more blood in this than the first two movies combined, I think, personally. Not that I don't really remember too much from the second one because that was the one that I saw the first one fairly recently, and the second one I haven't seen since I saw it in theaters, so I can't remember too many of the details. But I don't think either of those had nearly as much blood as this one, and I don't mind that at all. But it was definitely noticeable where I was like, they're getting cut up like a ton, and it wasn't like how they do in anime where it's like they get stabbed and you might see like one spurt of blood, but for the most part they'll get stabbed and whatever happens it'll get ripped out and then they'll just be bleeding. This was like, boom, you got hit, blood splattered like on the ground. Like Deku looked like he was dead already. Like he looked like he should have already died when by the time that he went like full on at the end. I'm like, he should be dead. He just looks like he should be dead. Bakugo literally had blades running through his body. It doesn't matter how he looked, he's dead. Like, period. That man he should have been dead. But I'm glad he's not. He's cool. But I was like, wow. It was definitely something I noticed. Like, it seemed very serious. When they would fight in this movie, it seemed really, really dark. And I appreciate that. And I think that somewhat fits kind of how serious things are getting with the actual season themselves. And I'm okay with that. If we got that like more in the show as well, I'd totally be fine with it. Because it seems like the story of the series is getting more serious. And it seemed like they were kind of showing that a little bit in the movie, like, hey, things are gonna get more serious in the upcoming seasons, so kind of look out for stuff like this. Like, it's gonna start to get at least feel more serious. Even if characters don't die, you might question it a lot more if you don't already know the story of the manga, or if it's Deku and it's like, well, obviously he won't die. But lots more blood in this one, which I was okay with. But him using his new power, basically being Spider-Man, swinging totally on the Golden Gate Bridge, was cool. Like I said, the woman with the arrow powers, she was super cool. I wish she wasn't longer. It kind of sucked that she killed herself, but I loved it for the story purpose. Like, oh, this is how crazy they are. Where, like, this is how real it is. Like, the one guy wasn't, like, he showed up and gave up, but she was serious, and it showed, like, how fanatical some of the people truly can be. So that I really enjoy, because they definitely reference that with Rhodey's story, who I don't think I've referenced once at this point, but Rhodey's in it. And I'm fine with him. He's cool. I like his story, his progression throughout it, and finding out the truth about his dad and all that. But in his flashback, they kind of reference it like, oh, his dad, just abandoned, his kids and stuff, and he went to join like those crazy people who they aren't just crazy, but they're terrorists and they're murderers. Who, I mean, the beginning of the movie, absolutely insane. And then the woman, like all that was crazy. But that woman coming up to the one dude who had like no powers whatsoever, no quirks. When she came up to him and was like, oh, you don't seem to have a quirk. You're one of the fortunate ones. Come with me. I was like, that, despite all the absolute chaos and people's powers going wild, that was the moment that kind of got me where I was like, oh, this is real. This is crazy, people. Like, she came out like, good for you, buddy. Come on. Like, whenever somebody does that and it's like, somebody's head just exploded and they're just like, you're lucky. Let's go. That's when you know it's serious. Like, that's when it gets real bad. Like, there's an unfortunate disconnect between this person exploding and this woman just being like really happy that she found a guy with no powers. So that's how I knew right off the top where I was like, I think I'm gonna like these villains because they're insane. And the woman who, I'm sure they said her name at one point, but I think she was a good proof of that as well, where she was devoted to the mission and she failed. She was super cool and she had a motorcycle. She could control the arrows. She's the type of character I was like, dang, I sometimes I hate when they make really sweet characters for movies because I'm like, they'll never show up again, and she definitely won't because she killed herself. But not that that's funny, but I was like, dang, that sucks because she was super cool. Like, she failed at her mission, but she's going against the main character. She has to fail. But I wish we got to see her actually do a fight. That I think was the other big disappointment that I had with this whole movie, was like, I wish we actually saw her fight. But all in all, I love the movie. Also, they had a montage, which was really cool. That was the thing I mentioned. I want to make sure I said that at the end here, because basically I've been talking. I realized this is almost 30 minutes, but it's been a minute since I've done a review, and it's been a super long time since I've done a 420 review, so definitely has to be longer. But the montage scene where they have Deku and Rhodes / Rhodey. Rhodes. I'm pretty sure it's just Rhodes. But they have them. Oh, no, it's Rhodey. Never mind. It's Rhodey. I was making sure because I'm like, I think it's just Rhodes because Rhodey would be, it was making me think of Marvel. Anyway, they had the montage. I thought that was interesting because I was like, this is the first time they've ever had downtime in one of the movies. The first two movies are just like, we have to keep going. We don't have time to do like montages where, they're traveling from one place to the other because they're hiding out or anything. It's like, nope, you're on actually I just thought of this, both of the first two movies were on islands. I didn't even think of that till just now. Like the first one was definitely like a man-made island, and then the second one was just like it was a natural island, but I didn't think of that till just now. It was kind of just like, oh, that's like the summer vacation thing, but those were both just like go off to an island and do something. So there wasn't a lot of traveling going on. They actually were going between countries in this movie, so they actually had some downtime with characters, and obviously with the new character with Rhodey. So I thought that was cool. I actually liked that. It was like, music kicked in. I was like, oh snap, because I was watching dubbed, and it was just like, boom, Japanese song kicks in, subtitles are popping up, so we know what they're saying, which was very kind of them. But I was like, oh, that's neat. Like I wasn't expecting that at all. It was definitely, I would say, the most story driven one out of the three. I'd have to watch the second movie again because, like I said, I saw the first one and it was a simple story, but for the most part, I feel like the last third of them, not the last third, but maybe maybe 3/4 of the first movie was them basically dealing with the hostage situation. Maybe less than that, but it felt like at least full on half of that movie was just like straight up action. The first movie, from what I remember, it felt like it was a lot of downtime until the action finally picked up, and then it was fun. But I remember feeling like the opening story beats weren't really exciting in the second movie, and then this one just was like, nope, 100% right off the top, and I was totally fine with that because I was a little worried. And then they have downtime in the middle. It felt like more of a classic movie structure in this one compared to the first two movies, and I enjoyed that. I thought that was cool. It's neat to have a little My Hero montage. But all in all, it was a super fun movie. I love the action. I love the ending. I'm totally fine with them doing non-canon because that's what anime movies are for. Just show all the powers, even though it doesn't make sense. They can just control it. No big deal. It's just fun. So I love the ending. I wish we got more of these costumes. Biggest disappointment. They didn't do the costumes nearly as long as they should have. But I enjoyed it. I liked the action. I liked the villain at the very end. It was just cool. You wouldn't think it would be as entertaining as it was just watching Deku just punch and then constantly fly back. But I was like, no, that was actually really fun. And then he just kept doing it until he realized the weakness. Which I would also say he should have done like his, I forgot what it's actually called, but like the air bullet trick. He should have done that more than the one time he did, because he kind of shot it and maybe it automatically redirected, but it seemed like he shot it and it just basically bounced in the straight line and hit him again. I was like, maybe he should just move faster. Like if he shoots it, just shoot it and then move, because I felt like that's what he did. But they only showed him do it one time, so I'm like, I'm not 100% sure if he actually was moving in the circle when he did it, or if he was still long enough for it to just bounce back at him. Because I'm like, I feel like if he just did it, sure, it would redirect, but can he control how it redirects was the question. And they kind of don't answer that, because I'm like, well, he did it, the air trick once, and I'm like, I feel like that was the move. Just do that in a circle, and it's not just gonna like follow you backwards, because it can't. It's just bouncing off. So I thought that was weird. I was like, he only tried that like one time, and then he just gave up on it because it hit him. But he kept going in for like full on direct punches, even though that wasn't working. But he didn't think like the long distance move was the trick. I thought that was super weird at the end, but it made for a very fun fight, because him just constantly like trying to push through the barrier was entertaining to watch. So we'll love to know your thoughts. Apologies for this being a super long review, but at the same time, there's always so much to talk about when it comes to these anime movies. They always do something that's just so wild, whether it's My Hero or anything else. It's always wild when you get like an anime movie, and My Hero does it really well. I think My Hero is probably going to go down as like one of the series that has like some of the best anime movies. I would say Bleach as of now is probably still my number one. Naruto has like 100 million movies, most of which are actually really fun, but I always felt like every time I saw a Bleach movie, I was like, the Bleach first movie is generally, I think, one of my favorite anime movies. Like, I think just the story of that was really well done, but the Bleach movies are always top notch, and they're just like, they really go extreme in the Bleach movies, and I think that's why I like them so much, because they're just like, let's go absolutely balls to the wall, and just make this movie worth it. But I think My Hero will be up in those rankings as well by the time the series concludes and everything. All the movies kind of lined up. I think My Hero will definitely kind of be in the top of like, it definitely has some of the best anime movies. But now that my heat is officially kicked on, and that's just going to add to the noise, I'm going to end this here. We'd love to know your thoughts on everything that happened in this movie. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it, what you thought about seeing more of Deku's new power and stuff, and him going full Spider-Man with it, the ending fight. Yeah, there it is, the full kick up. Everything that they did with all the fight scenes, even Rhodes. I know I didn't talk about him at all, but I like this story. That's about it. The ending scene where Pino was crying on the shoulder, and he's like, whatever, see you later. It was a cute little moment, but I like the movie overall. We'd love to know your thoughts, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.